penalty that's fixed by a statute, but that may bear no relationship to what has to be done, because in a statute, in our penal statutes, is either imprisonment or fine. But we are prepared to go a little bit further, in fact, a lot further, by putting at the disposal of the judicial system in Barbados, not in the sense of judges, though they approve it, but in terms of how we manage the course of a trial. In this way, sir, we eliminate a costly and unpredictable outcome of a trial. We eliminate the delays that are so much a part and parcel of a trial of that kind. We provide for opportunities for the alleged offender to make good what he has done wrong. And that, sir, is perhaps the most important thing, the ability to force a man to put back what he took out, to put it back, to clean up the gully, to go and take out everything out the quarry. We can force you to do those things under this agreement. We can even force you to change the way in which you conduct your business in terms of your internal processes and checks and so on. So this, sir, for us in the region, I don't think there's any other country in the region that has it. So perhaps in that regard, we will be seen as a trailblazer, but that is no reason for us to pat ourselves on the back. What is a reason for us to pat ourselves on the back about, in part, is the fact that we are prepared at this point to say we have to find more creative ways. Can a person buy their way out of a conviction? Let's ask the question. What is of greater value to the society? What is? And I would venture, sir, that what is of greater value to the society is that the entity would be forced to disgorge any financial benefit, that they'd be forced to put what they've done wrong, they'd be forced to put that back right. The country as a whole would benefit from all of the various remedies, including the requirement that that person give up evidence of the other individuals who were involved in the wrongdoing, and therefore allow us to prosecute them too. And that's why I began by talking about corruption. Because this, sir, is a good tool to help us deal with that issue. You come forward, you enter into the agreement, and part of it requires you to give up evidence on the people that you engage in the corrupt practices with. No, sir, I think that all taken, that is a much better outcome for the system than to engage in a prosecution, the results of which are not guaranteed, the cost-benefit analysis of which is one that you fail. And more importantly, sir, all that the society gets out of that approach is a satisfaction of seeing an entity charged, but not, sir, not really benefiting from the judicial process. The one distinction that is important to make here is that individuals cannot enter into deferred prosecution agreements. So this is not
This section 6.
Yes, sir. Yes. So an individual is not entitled to enter into a remediation agreement. It is targeting bodies, corporate partnerships, or unincorporated associations. And the reason for that is I think, clear. And I averted to it when I talked earlier about sometimes the difficulty is capturing the exact person who engaged in the wrongdoing, who might have been the one to authorize the payment. Because in an unincorporated association, in a partnership to a lesser extent, but most of all in a body corporate, it is often difficult to find the exact individual. And sometimes the individual that you find who does the dirty deed might be somebody low down and you could probably prosecute him, but the bigwigs who are the movers and shakers and the ones who get the real benefits, sir, those are the ones that you can't capture because of the nature of company law and the complexity of corporate structures. In a case that I'm sure we're all well aware of, a corrupt practice had its birth in Barbados. But the money wasn't paid out of Barbados. The money was paid on the basis of instructions given in a place like Bermuda, and the money was paid out of a bank account from a place like Bermuda into a place like New York. These things can get very complex. And who do you prosecute? The directors, the managers who were on the ground dealing with it? And if you prosecute them, what is the long-term benefit to Barbados? In a deferred prosecution agreement, sir, we could force the company now. So you don't just have to deal with the prosecution of a manager or somebody at that level. The company can be forced to engage in a whole set of reparatory arrangements with the government of Barbados. We could even say, go and pay that money to the Salvation Army. Go and pay 10 times that money to a charity, to the Cancer Society. So this gives us more opportunities, but I reiterate, sir, that it does not allow for participation by private individuals. Because with a private individual, you do a wrongdoing, you can't hide behind no corporate structure. You can't hide behind no hazy, unclear picture of who it is in this unincorporated body. You can't hide behind, well, was it this partner or that partner? As an individual, you do wrongdoing, you pay the penalty, without doubt. But in this instance, sir, this opportunity is one that for clear, solid reasons is open only to bodies, corporate partnerships, or unincorporated associations. Now, Mr. Speaker, the experience in those territories who have taken this approach has been mixed. It has worked better with some companies than others. One of the challenges that has been highlighted has been the fact that with major companies that are very complex in nature, but this gives you an opportunity to sidestep the trial and to bring an earlier resolution of the matter through this legislation. I commend it to this chamber. It is novel, but we cannot be afraid to take new approaches to old problems. There are going to be some naysayers, I have no doubt. Some might even be in this chamber. But we, sir, are not seeing this as a substitute for anything that we have. This is not replacing anything that is there. This, sir, presents us with an opportunity to add. So I recommend this to this chamber because I see it as an enhancement. It allows us to impose a penalty. It allows us, sir, you know, there are instances where the companies allow the junior person to face the music. So the middle management person, the director, I know nothing about that. Don't call my name. The company benefits, you know. The company gets the contract. The company benefits. But it's the middle management person who was foolish enough to engage in illegal conduct who will then face the penalty. Well, the company goes free, sir. So, as I said in Turks and Caicos, the company had to pay a fine of $12 million for its wrongdoing. It had to give up the land for its wrongdoing. So this, sir, when taken alongside what we already have, provides us, I think, with a better opportunity to address in a new way a situation or many different situations which would redound to the greater benefit of the society. I'm obliged to you.
We'll move it.
Beg to move this bill be read a second time.
Honorable Member for Michael West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I assure you and the Honorable House, no intention on my part to on this particular issue. What I will do is raise one or two considerations which I think carry some merit. Now, I have long believed that the whole concept of justice carries with it the notion of balance. There's an old prayer I used to hear my mother say in the dark and quiet of night. Lord, in your wrath, remember mercy. And that's the notion of balance, concept of justice. Justice does not see through eyes of prejudice, or should not see through eyes of prejudice nor partiality. And I say that for a particular reason, which I hope will become clearer as I go on to speak, and hopefully briefly. Perception now obtains in Barbados that when certain elements are involved in certain types of crime, that the eye of justice is influenced such that justice sees in partiality terms, terms of partiality or prejudice. In other words, that the interests of justice are not strictly served. The key, the critical element underpinning this particular piece of legislation is cited in the intention of the act, the intention of the bill. The bill would provide for a prosecutor in relation to certain offenses to enter into an agreement to defer prosecution of an alleged offender and impose certain obligations on the offender where such an agreement would be in the interests of justice. Where, therefore, any of these agreements are arrived at between alleged or suspected offender and prosecutor, question will always have to be asked and properly answered. Will the interests of justice be properly served by this remediation agreement? Arrangements to enter into an agreement, to waiver such entered agreements, to terminate such agreements having been established are all critical elements in this legislation. But when any of these actions are contemplated or effected, that question will always have to be properly put and honestly answered. Is the interest, Mr. Speaker, the legislation may be very well intended. The implementation, the actualization of it may depart a far cry from the wholesome intentions. You know what life is like. We would not want to know, certainly I would not want to know, that this becomes a framework for any slap on the wrist for a friend's situation. The intention of the